Now we see bed. Bed is a layer of rock which is deposited. So you won't say that igneous rock has got a bedding because there is no deposition in an igneous rock. Second, bedding plane. Distinct surface above and below a bed. So this is a distinct surface. Above this you can see a different bed, and below this there is a different bed, and the color of bed is black. So there is a distinction. It marks the break in continuity of deposition, right? Third, what is isopachite, or the corresponding is isopac maps. Lines joining the part of the beds with uniform thickness. Now if you see this bed is in place very thick, in place very thin. But at places, suppose if this is 1 meter thickness of the bed, so the lines, the part of the beds which have one unit of thickness, the line which is joined, okay, this is 1 meter, this is 1 meter, 1 meter, 1 meter, this is 1 meter. So this is known as isopac lines, and the corresponding map formed by the isopac lines is known as isopac map, right? Dip. Inclination of the planar surface, right? So this is the bedding, the inclination of the planar surface from the horizontal, right? Here you can see the inclination. This is known as the dip. Dip involves the cross-sectional view. Strike is formed when the bedding plane and the horizontal plane interacts. It meets, forming the strike line. Okay. Strike is seen on the top view, okay, from the planar view, top view. All right. True dip and apparent dip. True dip is measured in a vertical plane which is perpendicular to the strike line. Many a times it is not possible to measure the angle in the vertical plane perpendicular to the strike line. So when angle of the dipping bed is measured in a plane not perpendicular to the strike line, it is known as the apparent.
Now if you see here, the angle made by this bedding plane, suppose the angle made by this yellow bedding plane from the horizontal, okay, it's known as the dip angle. Okay, so if we keep this here, right, we can find that roughly the dip angle is roughly 70 degrees. Okay, now this is dip 70 degrees towards the east. Now if you see, what is the strike line? Strike line is when the horizontal meets the bed, when the horizontal bed meets the vertical bed. So this is the strike line here, what you see. Okay, the horizontal plane meets the bedding plane. Okay, this is the strike line. Now the strike line is towards, what you can see, we can find the angle of strike line. If this is the north, right, so strike line is towards roughly 10 degree northeast, south 10 degree east, north 10 degree east, south 10 degree west, right? Now there are two important aspects here. Many times in the rock bedding, the angle perpendicular to the strike is not available, or not, we are not able to measure dip in that direction, right? So here we have the strike line, and this is the vertical plane, and it is perpendicular to the strike line. Okay, so actually the dip is measured in the vertical plane, right? But as I already told, many times it is not possible, right? Maybe because the bedding plane is tilted. Probably the bedding plane is tilted like this, right? And it's not possible because of some formation there, right? So what we actually do, we use the concept of true dip and apparent dip, right? So this is the vertical, this is the vertical plane, this is the horizontal plane, and this is the vertical plane, right? So the true dip is the dip angle measured in the plane which is perpendicular to the strike line. Okay, so this is the true dip, what we are seeing, that is roughly around 75 degrees, since this is perpendicular. But if we measure an angle which is not perpendicular to the strike line, right, this is not perpendicular to the strike line, right? So what we see here is an angle which is different. So this is not true dip, and this is known as the apparent dip, right?
Now what we have talked up till now was all about the bed, right? The true dip, the apparent dip, the dip, strike, okay, everything about the bed. Now we will talk some terminology related to the linear structures, for example the lineaments found on the beds, right? So the first is the plunge. The plunge is the angle measured in the vertical plane. For example, here is a lineament which you can see, right? If you want to measure in the vertical direction, for example this lineament is 30 degree, so it's actually like a apparent dip. Second is the pitch. Pitch is the angle of the linear structure measured from the strike in the plane. Okay, so here this you see in the very same plane you measure the angle, right? So that was all about the plunge and the pitch. Next we see the concept of inliers and outliers. When the younger bed is at the top and the older bed is the bottom, which is the principle, but many times due to erosion, what we see from the top view, the older bed is surrounded all around by the younger beds, right? If you'll see on the top view, right? So this is known as inlier, right? And when it is opposite, it is known as outlier. That is, the older bed surrounds the younger bed, right? Now we see a very important a field trip observation which we have commonly came across. Many a times what we see is we don't realize, and hence in order to realize, let's understand. What we see here is a deposition of beds for suppose 600 million years ago to 500 million years ago. This black colored bed deposited, above which from 500 to 400 this second layer deposited, right? 400 to 300 and 300 to present is the green colored deposition, right? Now suppose the bed this complete was deposited in the ocean level have got down, and erosion has started, right? This erosion has caused a complete removal of the top layer, right? So what we see is this. Now the reason why it doesn't go further is because the concept of base level erosion, which we have talked earlier, right? Below the base level erosion there is no incentive for the agents of erosion to erode, and hence they don't erode, right? So what we see is the angles are this, all are dipping towards the east. That is, this is known as the down dip direction. So west to east is the how the beds have, dipped. Okay. Now one great observation is that as you move from west to east, you come towards the younger rocks. Many times people don't understand, but this is how the things are in there. So oldest is the first you will observe, the second oldest is the next, third oldest is the next, and the youngest rock at the last, right? That's all. So we discussed about bed, bedding plane, bedded, what is isopachite, right? We discussed about strike, dip, right? We discussed about what is true dip, what is the apparent dip, and what is the relation between the true dip and apparent dip. Finally, we also, looked upon what is some terminology for the linear structures, the plunge and the pitch or rake, right? We saw the concept of inliers versus outliers, and finally, a very important concept, that is in down dip direction we find beds which are old to young, right? That's all. Thank you.